All right, you guys. Hold on. Let me see if I can. I don't want the billboard up here. Hold on. Let me just take this off here. Here we go. Cool. There we go. Hey, everybody. Good evening. How is everybody doing tonight? I'm really excited to have this conversation, and I really hope that some people join and really participate in this, because I think that this is a really important conversation for us to start having. And I wanted to spend some time and talk about unpacking healing and what does healing mean? Because we all have different definitions, and the way that we define our lives is how we create our reality, right? Our definition and our definitions and our focus is actually what creates our reality. And so I think it's really important to first understand where we're putting our focus and to understand how we're defining healing. And let me give you a little context of where this came from and why, if you guys are just joining, thank you guys so much for joining. Please tap and share if you, have been in the personal development world for a while, or you feel stuck, or you feel broken, or you feel like something is missing, or that you're not enough, or that you're not worthy. I want to unpack some of this tonight because I've been having the most beautiful conversation with an amazing creator out there, and her and I have been going back and forth about just how we're defining some of these things for ourselves. Because again, our reality is created by our definitions and our focus. So welcome in. I know Live Fest is going on, so we're competing with a lot of amazing people for Live Fest. But if you've been on a healing journey, if you feel like for whatever reason in your life that you are not enough, that you are not complete, that you are broken, this is the room that you want to be in. And this is the conversation that is going to really unpack some things for you. So let me ask you a question. And if you've been feeling like you're broken, how are you defining that? How are you define feeling broken? Is it because of the way that you're thinking? Is it because of your emotions? Is it because of your actions? Is it because of the results that you're getting in your life? So let me know, how are you defining being broken? That's my first question. And my second question is to whatever you had said of how you're defining being broken. It's the way that you think, it's the way that you feel, it's the results that you're getting, it's the action that you're taking. There's not much more of this experience that we have other than, our senses. Are your senses broken? Because let me remind you, first and foremost, is that you are not any of those things. You actually created those things. You're the one that creates your thoughts. You're the one that creates your emotions. You're the one that creates your definitions, right? You either accept or deny certain definitions, or you make up your own definitions, right? You're in charge of your labels. You're in charge of your perspective. You're in charge of your attitude. In any of those things, your thoughts, your emotions, growing your senses, the actions that you're taking, the decisions that you're making, your perspective, the labels, right? You can absolutely at any moment change any of those when you remember who you really are. When you remember who you really are. And so because we're living in a human body, we start to believe that we are these things that we create. We start to believe that we are our thought patterns. We start to believe that we are the result of experiences that maybe harmed us. We start to believe that we are our identities. We start to believe that we are our emotions. But the truth is that you are the creative force behind those things, behind those thoughts, behind those emotions, behind those labels, behind those decisions. You get to choose. Now, here's where we start to get really stuck, is when we forget that we are the creator of those things. Even if we've unconsciously created them, we created them. And our unconscious is developed between the ages of 0 and 7. So all of us have gone through some tough stuff. From a child's perspective, all of us have gone through some tough stuff. And maybe if we get into what happened to me is greater than what happened to you, there's some pretty terrible stuff that happens. There is. And you may have been a person that has gone through some of those terrible things that I wish that a child would never have to go through. But what we must understand is that even if we've repeated those patterns, welcome to the room, so excited to see you. Even if we've created those patterns unconsciously and based on those traumatic experiences, and then we've repeated them over and over and over again, right? The thoughts that we're broken, the thoughts that we're not enough, the thoughts that we're not worthy, the thoughts that we're not significant, the thought that we don't belong, the thought that it must be me, right? Something must be wrong with me. Even if you've spent your entire life repeating and creating those labels, those patterns from terrible experiences, that still doesn't mean that you are broken. That just means that you have done the best you could with the information that you had and the experiences that you went through. You have absolutely done the best that you could, right? And maybe it feels, and maybe you got dealt a crappy hand. Yeah, some people are. Some people are, right? But here's the thing that I want you to remember is that there are no parts of you that are not working in grand design. Because every experience that you went through, there was a part of you that made a decision, that coped, that took an action, that created a thought, that felt an emotion that was created out of love by you to keep you safe and alive with whatever experiences were given to you that you went through. And you had to unconsciously choose, because your unconscious, the number one instructions that your unconscious has is it wants to keep you safe, and it wants to give you a long life of safety. Well, not a long life, a safe life. And, well, no, a long life. Yeah, a long, safe life. It does not care about you thriving. It does not care about you having a good life. Its only instructions is to keep you safe and to keep you alive, because you cannot take care of yourself when you are born. You have to learn how to belong to the people that you are around so that you get taken care of. And so we make all these unconscious assumptions, decisions, all of that. And what happens is when we come from a limitless source, the creative force within, we're expansive, we're limitless, we're the ocean, baby. and when we come into the body, we have to forget who we really are. We have to forget that we are the creative force within that's growing the body, that's running the body, that's creating the neurological networks, that's creating the emotions, that's instructing the cells. Like, that is us. Like, we are doing that. right? But up until now, sorry about Simba yelling in the background. Up until now, you have just been unconsciously creating. And what happens is when you had that moment when you were young and you didn't get your needs immediately met, you made a decision and you made an assumption that it must be me. It must be me. And this is just the human experience. This is just the human experience that we go through. And so when we make up that the identity says it must be me, and we start to build our realities off of I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not worthy, I'm not significant, I don't belong, and I'm not perfect, right? That's the belief that the identity has to create so that it can learn how to stay with a family, so it can learn how to belong to the family. And when we make that decision that I'm not it, right, then we go off in our life, and what happens is the identity will start to attract and create experiences that reaffirm that you're not it. Based on, because what your unconscious believes to be safe is what you have survived. It doesn't matter if that was abuse, neglect, rejection, shame, guilt, addiction, narcissism. Like, it doesn't matter. Your unconscious knows what to be safe is what you have survived. And that's why you're already a freaking amazing at manifesting. It's just that up to this point, you have been unconsciously manifesting. So with this amazing creator that I'm having this conversation with, she asked me a question and I wrote it down because I wanted to think about it and feel on it in my heart and really just articulate what I believe about this. And she asked me, because the post that I had created was you're not broken. You are not broken. You have simply forgotten who you are and what you're made of. And who you are is the creative force within, and what you are made of is stardust, baby. You are made up of the same stuff as the universe. You are literally made up of stardust. It's just that on our experience of being human, when we had to forget who we really are so that we could learn how to survive and how to belong, it's just that we don't have a point in our society because we haven't agreed on a religion. We haven't agreed on a belief of a higher power, the universe, whatever. Like, we can't agree on it. Everybody's got their opinion on it. And as many different people have as many different opinions on it as there are out there. So even on a scientific level, and I like breaking it down to science because people immediately want to put labels, and we do this in order to communicate, but a lot of times those labels, we get really pissy at each other. Like, if your label doesn't agree with my label, or if we have two different definitions for a label, really human beings really struggle to communicate in a way that we actually really listen to each other, and where we can like build these communication bridges. Because it seems like a lot of people just assume that everybody, when we're working off these labels, that everybody is working off the same definitions. And your definitions are literally, and your meanings that you assign to these labels and to these definitions are based on your own personal experiences. So however many people there are in this world, we have that many different realities going on, because your reality is created by you. So anyway, she asked me this question that said, is it possible, in my opinion, she's asking it to me, to know who you are and still see yourself broken, or still see your brokenness? And in my opinion, no. Because when you see who you really are, when you know who you really are, you inherently know that you will never do anything, be anything, or have anything more or less than you are right now that is going to change the fact that you are the creative force within. Like, that will never change. You are it. You are the creative force within. And you may be a drop of the creative force within, but you are still part of the ocean, babe. You just a drop of the ocean, right? You are part of the stardust ocean. And you will always be that, because you are energy. You are energy. And so this is where, whatever your definitions of your higher power or your God or your religion or anything like that, breaking it down, in you are energy. You are absolute energy in your body, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So we are that. And so when you live on that premise, and when you understand on that premise that you are the creative force within, then there is no such thing as broken. There's no such thing as broken. It's just, what do you want to create? What do you want to create? What would you love to create? Because you are a creative force. You are a creative force. Look at how well you've created some of your patterns. Look at how well you've created some of your thoughts. Look at how well you've created some of your emotions. Look at how well you've created some of your choices. Now, they may not be the experiences that you want to continue to create. And that's usually where we come to that place of awakening, when we're like, whoa, right? I don't want to consciously repeat those same patterns. I don't want to consciously repeat those same thoughts. And so it's really coming to an understanding that when we are that creative force, we can be the primary creator in our life. Now, we're not the only creator in our life, but we can be the primary creator in your life. And when you step into that power, right, you cease to give your power away to anything outside of you, any outside experience. Because we also know that two people can have the same experience and walk away with two completely different stories. Did you ever hear the story about the two brothers who had a father who was an alcoholic and beat them? And one of the brothers was an alcoholic, and he ended up beating his children, and he was like, how could I not? Look at how I was raised. And then the other brother broke the cycle, loved and cared for his kids, nurtured them. And the brother said, right, when they were asked, how come you didn't end up like your dad? And he said, right, how could I not treat my children with love? How could I not nurture them? How could I not do this? Look at how I was raised, right? We've got the same experience, but two completely different meanings that we assign to it. And so as we're unpacking healing and we're unpacking these words, if you are somebody that you feel broken, how are you defining your brokenness? How are you defining your brokenness? What is broken about you? And if you believe in whatever your God is, and you feel like somehow in some way that you have been broken in the presence of God, and that somehow, some way that the brokenness is a part of the relationship that you have to have with you and who you're calling God, I want you to ask yourself, what about that relationship would ever make you think that God, if He is the ultimate creator, if He's the end all be all, and He made you in His image, how can you think that he made a mistake? How can you think that however you develop with the information and your creative power, so however you develop in this world and turn into, how could that be anything less than perfect? How can that be anything less than in grand design? Because that's kind of when you label yourself as broken, you're kind of assuming, if you believe in a higher power, whatever that is, the universe, God, Jesus, Allah, whatever, that somehow, some way, that there was a mistake in you. That there was something that could be broken. Like, and I absolutely love this question, and I love talking about unpacking healing, because when we get to the root of our definitions, when we get to unpack like what healing means, and when I felt broken, like what did that mean to me when I felt broken? And you know, my brokenness, when I labeled it, my brokenness was, almost making the decision not to be here anymore. Like that felt like I was broken. The fact that, relationship after relationship after relationship, didn't work out. And I always walked away with a story that it must be me. Right? It must be me. I must not be lovable. I must not be worthy. I must not be enough. And that's what I would have called my brokenness. But in truth, it's like that's a way that you're deciding to see the world through now, right? Because up to this point, we've unconsciously done it. We've unconsciously, because we had to learn that we were separate. We had to learn, we had to learn this. It's the way of the human, right? But standing in your power, standing in the doorway through here, what do you think is broken about you? What do you think is broken about you? Because your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your decisions, your labels, your meanings, your perspective, you can choose to be the primary creator in your life no matter what is going on outside your world, no matter what you've been through. You can choose, right? You can choose the meaning. You can choose to decide. You can choose your thoughts. You can choose your emotions. You can choose. Now, if you've been living in the momentum of unconscious conditioning for a long time and you've been repeating those patterns over and over again, right? Those grooves in your brain are pretty deep. Those emotional loops that we get stuck in what I call the sucky soup emotions, and that's really, we can choose those emotions, but once our cells become addicted to those emotions, it's like a runaway train. It's got its own momentum going. And so it takes some reconditioning. It takes some training. It takes some training to stand in the power of our own creative force. So where we can consciously choose. Because up to this point, we have been running off of unconscious patterns, unconscious information sent from the past, right? We have been running off of that. And none of it's your fault. None of it is your fault. What you have been through, none of it is your fault. Right? And where whether it's your past shame you're holding on to, whether it's your past blame for yourself, for others. This is really where I think the suffering comes in. And if you guys haven't checked it out yet, Don't Believe Everything You Think is a pretty cool book. It's a pretty cool book because what we've done as human beings is we have set off on a mission from the perspective of not it to try and solve the problem of us. To try and solve the problem of us. To try and solve I'm not good enough. To try and solve I'm not worthy. To try and solve, I'm not capable. And the truth of the matter is that's an unsolvable problem. That's an unsolvable problem. And so when you're creating from that perspective, it doesn't matter what you do, what you have, or what you become. If your unconscious identity that's running the show believes that it's not enough, it will continue to create and attract experiences in your life that look just like your past. And you may be able to create something, but you will stay in those unconscious patterns. And so this is the moment where, being the creative force within doesn't dismiss God in any way. It doesn't dismiss any religion. It's the truth. It is the truth. We are made up of creative energy. And just take a moment and sit with that we are made up of creative force energy. Right? So you were born a creative force. And that doesn't do any disservice to any kind of religion. That's an acceptance and an acknowledgement of like, holy moly, right? Whoever sent me here, I get to play the most magical game there is, this game called life. And I get to choose. I get to choose. But when we're coming from the intention of trying to solve that inner wound, trying to solve that past trauma, trying to solve and heal that past experience, the truth is that the past is gone. The past is gone. And, whether you believe in angels or guides or Jesus or the Holy Spirit, whoever you want to walk forward with, you absolutely can. Because you are the creator. You absolutely can. And I know that I have made it to where I am in this life by having a lot of guides. A lot of guides. Both seen and unseen. I've had a lot of guides. So that doesn't negate or dismiss or diminish that whatever it is you think is broken, you can choose and make a new choice and create something new. And I know that can be a hard pill to swallow when you've gone through some tough stuff, right? It's really easy. I spent a lot of time blaming my past for the reason why I couldn't create something that I wanted in my future. I tied myself with a lot of invisible labels, a lot of invisible definitions that in the equation, if you're in the problem equation and your focus is on the problem and trying to fix the problem, solve the problem, avoid the problem, heal the problem, solve the problem, and that's the intention that we're walking with, in that problem equation, the one thing that always has to exist is the problem. It's the problem. But when you begin to acknowledge that you are this creative force within, and whatever guides you choose, you want to create a life you love, you want to create a family, you want to create a house, you want to create an adventure, you want to create money, you want to create music, you want to create a garden, right? You want to create a life of service, you want to create a life of fame, you want to create a life of power, you want to create a life of quiet, you want to create a life of adventure. Whatever that life is, you get to choose. You get to choose. And science is proving that our bodies have the capability to heal. That we were given this magnificent power to heal. And Joe Dispenza, like, they have documentation and brain scans of people that spontaneously healed. And they did it with the power of love. So, whatever your definition is of your God, of your religion, of your spiritual beliefs, of your principles, can we all just agree that unconditional love is pretty freaking amazing? Because we may be a perfect creative force within, right? But we are far from perfect in our humanness, right? We make mistakes. And I don't even know if mistakes is the right word, because again, those are just labels. And, you know, is there really a mistake, or is it a lesson? And if it's a lesson, then how can we use that lesson and turn it into wisdom, and turn it into a practice, and turn it into purpose? So I don't know about you, but some of the most horrendous things that have happened to me have allowed me to be here in front of you, and to be able to share a space with you, and to share heart energy with you, and to share wisdom with you, and to share purpose and passion with you. Who am I to say? Who am I to say that those things were wrong? Who am I to say that those things were not how it was meant to go? I don't know. And this beautiful creator that I've had this amazing conversation with, I was driving and I was thinking about her this morning, and I was driving my car. And as I was driving my car, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie The Shack. But it's a very, very beautiful movie, and it's very, very, very intense. And so if you want to go on an emotional roller coaster, and you've been looking for some answers, or you've been asking some questions, and you are open to listening, that movie was very impactful. And I don't care what your religion is. It was extremely impactful. And so there's just so much. There's just so much that okay. Sorry, I lost my thought for a minute. But anyway, so I was thinking about this movie, and so this movie was on my heart, and this creator, she's just so sweet, and she just has this beautiful heart, you know, energy around her, and she's just so sweet, and her little girls are super, super sweet. And it came on my heart, like, to share if she's seen this movie. And so I don't know why, but I get intuition, and I listen. I've learned to trust my intuition and listen to my intuition, so I know when it's, you know, telling me to take an action. And so when I hear it, I do. And so I did. And there's some very beautiful scenes in this movie. Two scenes in particular well, 3 scenes in particular. And one of them was when the premise of the movie is that something horrific happens in this man's life and he gets the opportunity to go meet God, Jesus, and Spirit. And he has these amazing conversations with each of them. And there's this beautiful part in the movie. One of the most beautiful lines from this movie is when he is having a conversation with Spirit, and he asks, did any of the religions get it right? Who got it right? Who was closest? And she said, none of you. It was always supposed to be just a conversation between friends. And that quote, it just gets my heart every time I hear it. And it always makes me think of how can we build communication bridges to each other? How can we build communications to each other so that we can redefine and unpack some of these labels and maybe create some new meanings? And there's a second part of this conversation when he's with Spirit and he's planting a garden with Spirit. And she tells him, he's going to plant something, and she says, be careful, the ends of that are poisonous. And he looks, and I'm paraphrasing, but he looks at the plant and he says, well, why would you put something deadly? Why would you put something deadly in this garden? And she said, because the flower is made up of the most healing properties there are. So how can you judge one thing as bad when the other thing literally heals? And I always loved thinking about this, and it's really just helped me shift and redefine some of these labels that I learned to hold myself back with, that I created to try and keep me safe, that I created so that I could play it small, that I created so I didn't have to take my power back, right? So all of those invisible chains, all of those things that I have labeled as bad, broken, all of those things that I have judged. And we all do it because we all have a self-conscious, and our self-conscious, our ego, is rooted in judgment. So no one human being is exempt from judgment. We have an ego that judges, and there's nothing wrong with this. There is nothing wrong with this. This is just an aspect of our consciousness. This is an aspect of our self-consciousness. And I just love that, because when we really label something, and this is something that I've really been working on the past couple years, is when we label something as bad, we are cutting off the opportunity for it to turn into what it was meant to turn into. So if we're not judging something as good or bad, what can we learn? And how can we empower our future selves with the wisdom so that we can create something new in our future? Because what we put our focus on grows. What we put our focus on expands. And if your focus is always on the problem of not being it, of not being worthy, of not being enough, of trying to heal yourself, fix yourself, mend yourself, better yourself, to avoid, to run away from, to get rid of, to not feel your past, you will you will stay locked in these cycles. You will stay locked in the mental rumination. You will stay locked in the mental monsters. And here's the other scene in the movie that I absolutely love, is when he goes out in the boat with Jesus, and Jesus starts to step out on the boat and walks on water. Mac's boat starts going down. There's a leak in the boat. And this blackness starts to surround him as his boat is sinking. And Jesus is standing there. And what he was trying to tell and show Mac is that Mac was creating it. In any moment that Mac made a new decision, he could literally stand up and walk on water next to Jesus. And Jesus didn't rush to go grab his hand and help him up. No, because that would have meant that Mac couldn't do it on his own, that Mac couldn't stand up, that Mac couldn't, that he wasn't the creator of his life, and he absolutely was. And so Jesus gave him the space to make a new decision as he supported him through his fears, as he supported him through this darkness and through the experiences that he had. And Mac went through some pretty horrible experiences. So I love it. I absolutely love that. And it's such a powerful movie. And I wanted to bring those two scenes with you. And I hope that that was for somebody, because this is such a good book for understanding this, because we fall prey to the belief that we are our labels, because we've said it so many times, because there was a part of you that decided a long time ago that because of what you went through, because of what you thought, because of what you felt, because of how you acted, because of some result that you got, because of something that you created, that somehow, some way that you did it wrong and that you weren't good enough. And you've just believed that so many times. That's why it's so easy for you to believe it. That's why you wholeheartedly believe it. And it's something that you created. It's a reality that you created. It's a perspective that you created between the ages of 0 and 7. And so this is where I want to remind you of the baby elephant who's trained to be chained to a post. And when the baby elephant is little, this chain around its foot, he can't get away, right? The post and the tension is too strong, pulling him back. He can't get out. He can't pull the post out. He can't break the chains. And so he keeps on struggling and keeps on struggling and keeps on struggling until that moment where he believes that he's not strong enough to pull the post out. And the baby elephant grows up into a full-grown elephant, still with a chain tied to the post. And that elephant believes that it's not strong enough to pull out the post. But if you were a person just walking by the elephant, and I did this when I was a little girl, that I thought it was so silly, and I couldn't believe how much these elephants must have loved their people to stay, because when you think about it, these gigantic elephants with this little bitty chain tied to this little bitty post, they never left. So why is that? Well, it's because we created it when we were younger, and we just struggled with it and struggled with it and struggled with it, that we just believe that we're not powerful enough to pull the post out, that we're not powerful enough to create what we want in this life. And that's just not true. It's just not true. And whatever you have been through, if it has made your heart hurt, I see you. If it has made you feel broken, if it has made you feel hopeless, like for some reason, in some way, that there isn't an exact place and purpose for who you are right now in all of your amazing light, that you are in grand design, you are not a mistake. And you are not broken. You are not broken. You are just the elephant that's tied to the post. In those chains, when you decide that you don't want to go down with the boat, when you decide to step out of your suffering, you can choose to do that. And with whoever help you want, right, you get to choose that too. And that's what's amazing about this life is full of so much joy. This life is full of so much love. This life is filled with so much light and so much beauty and so much wonder. Right? And just like we can experience the dark of the dark, we can experience the light of the light. And sometimes based on how much darkness we've seen, the darkness that we came from, that just means the healing beauty of the plant, right? You are the plant. You are the plant, right? You've planted your roots. You've grown from the mud. You've grown from the darkness. You've emerged. And now it's time to be the beautiful healing flower. It's time to be that beautiful light that you are. That you are. And you can choose to let go of those chains anytime. Doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean you don't have to retrain the body. Because remembering who you are and really owning and taking full radical responsibility for your choices, even your unconscious choices, and standing in your power and your presence that is literally the drop of the ocean, the universal ocean. That's like walking on a new pair of legs. And it takes practice. It takes practice. But you have to acknowledge that you're the creative force within. You have to stand on the stone that you're the primary creator in your life. Like I said, the primary creator in your life, not the only creator in your life. And when you can choose to focus on that, being the primary creator in your life, living your true nature and purpose, creating a life you love, creating a life of health and vitality, and you choose to walk forward in that, it's amazing what starts to transform. It's amazing what starts to transform. And let me just tell you, the moment that you start stepping out in that new orientation, in that new creative orientation of being the primary creator in your life, and owning the I choose, right? You're going to own those words. You're going to own those intentions. I choose. Because God isn't choosing for you. You get to choose. Whoever walks by you, right? They'll be by you, but you get to choose. You get to choose if you're going to go down in the boat, or you get to choose if you're going to walk on water. You get to choose. And if you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend that movie. But I highly recommend that you are in a space that you're willing to allow yourself to feel all of the emotions of that movie and all of the emotions and the energy that went into that movie, because you will be on an emotional roller coaster. And so one of the reasons why I love movies like that, when I start to distance myself from feeling my emotions, right? I can watch that movie and I can feel those emotions. And I'm choosing to feel those emotions because maybe there's some stuck emotions in there, right? Maybe there's some stuck emotions. And I want to experience what I call the breakdown before the breakthrough. I want to experience that. I want to share in that hero's journey of adventure. And we love stories, right? We love storytelling. So remember that you're on your hero's journey. Where are you on your hero's journey? Who are you walking with? And what is the direction that you're going, right? What map are you following? What destination are you trying to get to? And understanding that is having that North Star focus. And as you slip back into, because when you first start this work and you start this retraining and this emotional reconditioning, you're going to forget who you really are a lot. You're going to forget who you really are a lot. And you're going to come back to it and you're going to remember and then you're going to forget again. And then you're going to remember and then you're going to forget again. If you stay in this work, if you start this process of transformation. And if you want to start this process of transformation, believe me, either me or the coaches that coach with me, that are my mentors, have an amazing community where you can start to practice this, where you can start to practice walking on these new legs of yours. Because it really does take a community, because you want to surround yourself with people that see you. Not the labels, not the definitions, not the emotions, not the thoughts, see you. And are rooting for you and are here to encourage you on your own hero's journey. Those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. Those are the people. Right? Those are the people. So remember that mastery, because this is a new orientation that you get to master. This is a shift you get to master. And remember that mastery in being in the creative force within, being conscious of the creative force within, and being conscious of the human being and creating from that space is walking on that new pair of legs. And it's it's not about never losing your focus. It's not about never going into the problem focus, never going into the problem structure. It's about how quickly you can get back to remembering who you really are. And remembering that you are owning your words, that you are owning your perspective, you are owning your thoughts, you are owning your emotions to say, I choose, and decide what it is that you choose. And start walking forward and start creating from that intention as the primary creator in your life, as the creative force within. And that's how you master it. It's not about how never losing your focus. It's not about being perfect. Not at all. It's about reclaiming your power and stepping into this creative force that you are, and using your focus, which is your attention and your intention, which where you put your focus grows, using your conscious choice to step into your flow. And what is your flow? Your flow is your true nature and purpose, right? Your flow is your true nature and purpose. And you get to walk in the way of that when there's no unconscious resistance standing in your way, trying to get you to turn back as you step into this new creative orientation, because your unconscious, as soon as you make this shift, as soon as you make this orientation, your unconscious is going to throw up all the resistance. Your unconscious is going to throw a temper tantrum and give you all of the reasons, all of the labels, all of the experiences, all of the definitions, all of the meanings, all of the proof. It's going to give you all of it, right? Of why you can't have what you want to create. Why you can't create a life you love. Why you can't create health and vitality. Why you can't create living in your true nature and purpose. Why you can't live as the primary creator in your life. It's going to come up with all that. All of it. The mental monsters, right? It's the mental monsters living in the mental matrix. So just know that happens. That is going to happen. And you don't have to live a conscious life. You don't have to. And a lot of people, because they haven't had the education and because they haven't had that milestone yet in their life of somebody reminding them who they really are and like actually hearing it, right? That calling on your heart, that calling in your life, that calling of your purpose, that calling on your passion. But they haven't had that calling yet that has brought them to the next level information yet. And you have. And you can still decide to turn around and go home. You can still decide that. And you can even decide, I think about this all the time, who are my never-ending story besties? Who are my never-ending story besties? Because do you remember when Atreyu and Ajax were walking through the swamp of hopelessness? Ugh, still gets me. And Ajax gives up. And Atreyu has to go on without him. Because Ajax gave into his hopelessness. He gave into it. And I think there's a lot of people that are there right now. And nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to save you. And what I mean by save is your physical human being. Nobody's coming to save you, right? Nobody is coming to make new choices for you. Nobody is coming to create new meanings for you. Nobody is coming to create new definitions for you. Nobody is, but it's in this game. It's in this arena. It's in this life. And so this is where you really get to ask yourself and you really get to start to know what it is that you want to create and why it is that you want to create it. And unpacking that and understanding and getting to a really true choice on that is really how you have the best life in this game. Is to decide what it is that you would love to create and pour your essence, pour your energy, pour your heart into it. Now, I know we haven't stacked the game to make that easy, right? We haven't. And we haven't created a society that makes that easy, but that's the key. That's the secret to having the most fun in this life, having the most joy, having the most love, creating something just for the love of it. What would you just love to create? Because as human beings, we make really ineffective choices. I think there's like 6 different ways that we create ineffective choices, and 99% of people are making ineffective choices because we're trying to make choices based on the belief that now isn't good enough. That right now, whatever we're going through, whatever we've been through, whatever we're feeling, whatever we're thinking, we don't believe that now is good enough. And we think that if we do something, be something, or have something, that somehow, some way, that will make us better and that